Hi, welcome to Viewpoint. I'm the host, Lil Newman, and along with my co-host, Sue Solomon, Executive Director of Drug Crisis in Our Backyard, we have today as our guest Supervisor Gilbert from Yorktown. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
It's
It's
great
my
having
pleasure.
you.
Welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Thanks.
So tell us, how do you become Supervisor of Yorktown? Tell us.
Well, it took me. It was the course of it. We moved up. Moved up the family up to Yorktown in the '90s, early '90s, to raise my kids, and I got involved with the town right away. I'm that type of person that likes to be involved with the community. So I was actually on the town conservation board for about 12 and a half years, right out the box. And then through that all, I then became, well, let me backtrack. I'm a court attorney referee in the Bronx and I just retired from that position, but I was doing that for, at the time, around 25 years. I just retired after 35 years.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you,
Congratulations.
thank you. But right around 10 years ago, 2007, I wanted to give back the town in a different way, and because of my legal background and my work in the judiciary, I decided to try to run for town judge. And I was appointed to fill a vacancy in the town as the town judge in 2006. 2007, I ran and was elected for a 4-year term.
Okay.
And then I finished out that term. Unfortunately, I loved doing it, but I was unseated with a Republican sweep in the town. And I stayed out of politics for a year or two because of some personal tragedy that I had in 2013. After that, 2 years ago, I considered getting involved in politics again because now I was concerned with the way the town, things that were happening in the town, partially on that personal, with the personal loss. And I ran for town council 2 years ago, lost by 8 votes.
Close.
But yes, very close. And there was a point where I was about to say, you know what, I don't know whether I should do this anymore, but I was, had a lot of friends, a lot of support in the town, and I ran again this past November and was successful as town supervisor. So again, I think we talked about God works in mysterious ways.
does.
They lose by 8 votes,
That's it.
win by 300.
That's
so.
it. There you go. So what changes do you see or do you want to make in Yorktown?
Well,
Sure. Absolutely. Jump right
Interrupt
in.
here a
Yes,
minute?
you can.
All right. What is the job of the town supervisor?
okay, the job of the supervisor is to sort of set the tone for the town. One aspect is business, and the other aspect that I thought was being ignored, one of the things that I wanted to get involved in, was the social aspect of the town. You may or may not know, but again, that's part of my personal journey, is in the 2009 class in Yorktown, the high school class, lost 9 kids from either the opioid or suicide.
Wow.
And that's just the one class, and and you just informed me today that there was another loss in the town just this week.
Or the area. It was
In
either
the
the
area.
town or the area,
Right.
yes, there was another loss.
So you know, this is something that it's of crisis and epidemic proportion, and you know, I just felt that a lot was being done. I don't want to, you know, your organization is wonderful. Yorktown started a heroin task force. Senator Murphy did some work, and I applaud all of that. But I just felt more needed to be done, and one of the reasons why I ran was to address that. So I'm going to try to create a commission to deal with the opioid and mental health, because I think both need to be addressed.
Yes.
I have a background in the Bronx courts. I helped create a mental health and drug court down there.
Okay.
So with that said, now getting back to being, what do you do as supervisor? There's also the mundane, but it's also very important, and that's dealing with the budget of the town, trying to provide as many services as you can on a limited budget, and basically you have to try to work within the tax structure, the tax caps. It's very complicated, but again, I worked for years in court administration, and I felt I was suited for it, and I love serving the town.
So when you say the budget, the town budget of Yorktown, is that the
That's
whole?
correct.
So that's the money that comes from
Everything but the school district.
everything but the school district.
And
Okay.
so you're dealing with the highway department, you're dealing with the planning department, you're dealing with engineering, you're dealing with the building department, you're dealing with parks and recreation. It's an enormous.
And that
The
all out of
town
the
budget is
budget.
about 58 million,
Okay.
and that's what you're trying to stay within the confines, not raise taxes, but
Right.
provide services. The library, everything that you can think of that the town provides you.
Comes out of that budget.
That comes out of that budget.
Big job.
It
Yeah.
is,
So
it is.
now
job.
these people don't all report to you, do they?
Most of them do. The only the town clerk is an elected position, so
Okay.
technically she is independent, but we work together very well. The town highway superintendent is elected, so he is technically independent, but he's relying upon the town board giving him
Right.
a budget,
Right.
a money, allocating money. But other than that, he has his own independent fiefdom, as
Right,
you know,
right,
or
right.
whatever. But with all of that said, it's luckily the town has a wonderful. I'm thrilled with the town employees, and we all pull together, and and it's hard for them. It's hard for the department heads. I was just talking to one of them today. Had to go up to a meeting with the head of engineering, and we're talking, and I said, you've had three different supervisors over the course of 8 years, so they have to work with different personalities and
right.
different people with different agendas. And,
And things change. Like
and-
just when you're starting to get a handle on how to do things,
That's
then
right.
another
Time's
election
up.
comes
Right.
up, and you could
Especially
be out, and that's
exactly.
really difficult.
So the judicial, the judge is a 4-year term. The council people are 4-year terms. The clerk is a 4-year
Right.
term. The supervisor is only a 2-year term.
Got it.
So it's almost like you were elected.
Right, and then
You're
you're out.
starting to get your feet grounded, and and you're running for election the following year, which is unfortunate, but that's the way it is. And I knew that going in.
Right, right.
And the Senate is like that too, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
like it's like spending a lot of
And the
time
assembly.
and
Right.
energy getting yourself
started.
elected.
Right,
Right,
And then
right.
getting your feet wet, getting started, and
And
you
then
got
you
to
have
do
to
it
do it
all
all over again.
Right.
It seems a little like a waste of
It is
Energy.
counterintuitive.
Counter. That's a good word. I like that
Absolutely.
word.
Oh, thanks. I've been a lawyer for 35 years.
Yeah, right. So you must start very early in the morning.
Yes, although for example tonight I've got a meeting so I work all day, and then I have my meeting, which generally starts around 6 o'clock, 6:30, and I've had meetings run into Wednesday, and those days, the following days I try to give myself a break, so I don't report I go in around 10,
Okay.
10:30. I give myself a little bit of time to recuperate. But otherwise, yeah, it's a full day, and
Yeah.
and that's one of the things I ran on, is that I wanted to be a full-time supervisor. And as soon as I won the election, I retired from my position down in the Bronx,
Right.
and I am there. I have an open door policy. People, I schedule appointments,
Right.
but when I'm just at my desk doing some work, people are free to come in.
And do they
talk
come
to
in?
me.
They knock
I do.
on-
I do get.
That's great that you
walk-in
have
traffic.
Right, that
Yeah.
they have access to you.
And I think that they really appreciate that. I think that's a thing. I've changed the tone, I believe, of the office, and
I'm
that
sure
was,
you have.
That's one of the things
Yeah.
I've tried to do.
Well, I'll tell you, if people could come in, they're going to come in.
Right.
They're going to come in and they're going to complain.
Okay, but you know what? They feel heard, and I think that's what's wrong with
Exactly.
a lot of governments,
Absolutely.
municipalities. You don't feel heard as someone who's living in the town. It could be
Absolutely.
something small. My complaint might just be about me, but I want to be heard and acknowledged. That's
Having
all
been
we
a
want.
judge, that's half of the litigation that you see, or it's basically people just need to want their side heard.
That's right.
Exactly. So.
So now I've heard talk of treatment court in Yorktown. So can you talk about that
Yeah,
at all?
I have to admit, again, people will learn. I'm brutally honest, and I hate when things are politicized, and something like this should definitely not be politicized. I had always desired to have treatment, having
Right,
worked
drug-
and created a treatment and drug court in the Bronx, mental health court. I felt it was very important for us to try to establish that. But it really, the reality was,
Go on, I'm sorry.
the reality is that the county does not want to do it the way we would envision it.
Westchester
and
County.
having it, yes, have
Okay.
have it local.
Right.
Right.
And really, what they want to do is they want to have control down county. They want to. They will help us institute one ultimately, from
Yep.
what I understand. But the cases will have to be transferred from local to the county court level, and then
Okay.
they will deal with it on that way.
So they already
have
have
the
it-
they feel
Right.
they have the resources down there, and we may not have the resources locally.
Okay, so does that mean that the cases would have to be a higher level of, like felony?
They may start as a higher level,
Yeah.
but then you can ultimately plead down, which is how we dealt with it in the Bronx. You would plead to a higher level. And I learned this from federal training, going down to the Department of Justice. It's that the drug courts work because of the carrot and stick approach.
Got
Right.
it.
You have, first of all, you have the punishment is real, or potential punishment is real. So that's the stick.
Right.
But the carrot, which is being able to get cases dismissed
Got it.
or the charges
Right,
lowered.
right.
That's the first. The second is appearing before a judge. They found to be incredibly valuable. That some of these kids, and we talked about this earlier too. A lot of these kids come from great homes, but there is an element or a population that come from homes where they have never
Right.
had any positive feedback.
That's right.
And the judge gives that. The judge basically said, "You're doing a great job.
Right.
Stick with
That's
it.
right.
You're doing that." And
Love it.
and it's the first
That's
time
right.
they've ever heard
That's right.
positive reinforcement. So that's one of the reasons why those courts work. Getting back to why I said I hate the politics of it all, is there have been promises that we're going to bring drug court locally. We're going to bring, and that's how some people. That's what I think in Yorktown, Judge Raniolo, Judge Lagonia, and I, as the former judge, we would have loved to have it local, and you promise and you hope to get it local, but the reality is we're under the control of the Office of Court Administration, and they're the ones that will decide where the drug courts will be.
Okay.
Okay, so there is already a treatment court in White Plains.
There is.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
There's White Plains.
So how would that
Rochelle,
work
yeah.
then?
Then what would happen is if someone were brought up in charges in Yorktown,
Right.
they would basically be the case if the judge, I believe the way it's going to work is that if the judge feels it's an appropriate case for treatment, they'll ask the district attorney if the case could be transferred down county. And if the DA has to opt into it, and once they say yes, and in all likelihood they will, then the case gets transferred, and then again it goes into a court that has the resources, that has the social workers,
Got it.
the people that can link them up with
Right.
treatment.
So they won't be seen really in Yorktown.
Probably
Right.
not. The
Got it.
cases will be called, that's the downside.
That's a downside.
Because again, I would have loved to have done that, but I had as similar, but a little different is, again, because of my experience with the Office of Court Administration and my years down in the Bronx, there was a thing called IDV, which is Integrated Domestic Violence
Okay.
and courts, and that's another type of we used to term boutique courts.
Okay.
The courts that specialize in things, and that dealt with cases where someone had a criminal matter plus a family matter that were tied together.
Got it.
So you didn't want to have, for example, conflicting orders of protection and things like that.
Yeah.
So it would go before one judge, which was